she just didn't like that I was being
She
so
was
out
bullying
and
you.
proud and,
Yeah.
you know, which was a little weird.
Was that the girl who copied your outfits all the time?
There was a lot of girls who copied my outfits, okay? Like, I can't, if I'm going to be honest, I don't remember. Hi everyone, it's V. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Ask V That, the space where I get to talk about all taboo topics affecting trans women of color and queer youth today. Thank you so much for the support so far and giving me the chance to even create this space. Make sure to go find this show on all streaming platforms and give me a rate and review. It really helps keep the safe space for queer people of color like myself. But today, I'm here with my mom and we're going to be discussing how to support trans kids.
Hi, Vivi. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, girl. No, it's probably been a struggle even trying to get here because, you know.
No, well, I mean, it's been a little bit of a journey, but I'm so glad to finally be here.
Yeah.
To see where you live and see how you live. And it's really exciting. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is actually my mom's first time going to Los Angeles where I live now. She just visited my apartment. So it's been really fun. We've been just like, I don't know, showing her everything that I've been doing for the last like almost year now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The updates in life with you.
Oh, the updates in life.
I know you just had
mom
a
life
baby.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So you're my first baby.
Yes.
19 years old. Then I have a
You don't
second.
know my age?
So many
She's
children.
losing track of time, y'all.
And then your brother.
Yes.
And he's a year younger, almost 18.
Yeah.
And then I have a baby who's a year and a half. So I'm definitely starting over in a new day and age, but I'm up for the challenge. So, and I'm here to support you in any way I can.
Oh, I love it.
Of course.
So with my new baby brother coming in, are you going to be teaching him all about trans people even if he isn't a part of the community?
Duh.
Right. I mean, we have to educate people about us and, you know,
Girl, why
we
would I not?
exist.
Come on now. Next question. This skirt looks familiar. This little skirt you have on here.
May or may
Is
not.
that the skirt that you wore or trying to wear to the basketball game in high school?
So why you gotta clock my tea like that? Cause
I just
I
remember.
be keeping them skirts forever, okay?
You-
If it fits, it fits, okay? Like it's a nice mini skirt, okay?
You were trying to leave the house in like this cute little number. And I was like, where are you going? You said, I'm going to the basketball game.
Girl, I honestly think I kept it because you were like,
Now it's like iconic.
yeah,
Yeah.
now I feel like, I was like, if I can't wear it back then, I should be wearing it now, you know?
I'm like, I'll show you, Mom. And I'm going to wear it on your show today.
Oh my God, it wasn't even not intentional either. Subconscious, you know?
But you look really cute.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Me
you
too.
look beautiful.
I love the comfy look.
Oh, thank you. I was kind of stressed about what to put on, but then I was like, you know what? I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Who cares?
No, what were you were gonna put on your little Skims dress
Girl,
before?
I was gonna do the most, but then I was like, let me just relax. Let me just we're gonna get into some, serious topics here. Let me just be comfortable and casual, and so we can just, feel like we're just talking,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of serious topics, today we're going to be talking about how to support trans kids. Why is this topic important to you?
The topic of supporting trans kids is not only important to me, but I think it should be important to everyone. Learning about people, supporting our children, supporting trans people of color is, it should be something everybody should be doing for the betterment of our society. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's huge. There's a lot of kids out there these days who need the support of their families, who need the support of their parents, and need the support of their schools and the people who are surrounding them. And education is key. We need to learn about trans people. We need to learn how to support trans people. We need to learn how to support trans kids so that we can have healthy people in our future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good mental health for trans people.
For sure. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Mental health is key. And the best way to support the mental health of trans people is to be affirming and supportive in the best ways that you can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
when they have that support backed up for them, they can feel like they can go to people. It's very important for me just because currently there's a lot of bills going around of just anti-legislation for queer kids, taking away hormones, teachers outing you to your parents at school. And there's just like a lot of people throwing around actions that can be so detrimental to the life of somebody who is in a vulnerable state, that can be dangerous in certain locations that aren't as accepting. So I just think it's really important to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Because even when I was a little kid, I was going through issues at school where there wasn't necessarily bills being thrown at me. Not up until like 2016.
Well, there was the bathroom bill.
Yeah.
When all the bathroom bills were going around. And the bathroom bills were, legislation that was going around, anti-trans legislation that was going around to try to prevent trans people from using the bathroom in which they identify with their gender. So, and luckily in the state that we're from, that was just, it wasn't going to happen.
It was a given mostly.
Right. Yeah. So the state that we lived in was Washington. And that, has been super beneficial for our family and for you.
Yeah.
And not everybody has the luxury of living in a state that supports trans people.
What was your thought process when I was coming out to you at the young age of 7 as trans?
My thought process, or the feeling that I had when you came out when you were 7, was relief.
Really?
I was relieved that you were finally living in your truth.
Yeah.
And I was relieved that you were able to go to school and tell people, hey, I'm a girl, address me as such.
Absolutely.
It was like really freeing to see that.
When I was a child, was there ever a time where you had to protect me from adults that thought it was wrong to raise a trans kid?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even within our own family.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, due to religious beliefs, or just, thinking that I was pushing it on you, thinking that I was making you dress like a girl or, play with Barbies or whatever, But yeah, I mean, and speaking of someone who I had to protect you from was actually the children's pastor at church. And
And I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Which
and he did it
is
with you in the room,
awful.
which was crazy.
Yeah. Like, the decency, why don't you not have the kid? Like, seeing your mom cry before her eyes, like, don't you think that's going to be a little traumatizing?
Yeah. Yeah, he pulled me aside after church, and honestly, like, and now I don't go to church at all. Like, that was when I stopped.
Really?
I had this light bulb moment. Yeah. And he pulled me aside and said, I want to talk to you about, I got a message from God for you. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, who doesn't want a message from God, know? And he said, God told me that he wants you to stop dressing your child in girl clothes.
If God is you, God is not in the room. Let's be so honest.
Anyway, it was crazy. It was crazy. And then I said, okay, well, Beyonce picks these clothes. Like, I don't dress Beyonce, and he said, well, it's up to you since you're the parent and, you are, the person who makes decisions for her. And if she... Actually, I think we didn't even identify as a girl yet.
No, so I was just expressing myself.
Yeah, it was just
honestly, because I couldn't express myself at school and church was said to be
like a safe place.
Yeah. I was in a sense like, oh, let me go feel feminine and express myself
and
because
you put
that's
on your
how I
fluffy
feel.
Boots and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would like... It was almost like a second home for me, and it got stripped away from me because literally of just how I was dressing and expressing myself.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember him saying, like, if your child is gay, they're going to, like, burn in the pits of hell or something like that. And asked me if I wanted to pray with him.
Good Lord.
Right? And I was
Little did you know, I was not gay. I was actually a girl. So thank you very much.
But still.
Right.
I mean, even if you were gay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get out of here.
I know.
And then he called CPS on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the CPS ended up coming to my elementary school, sitting me down, asking me questions, which was just so weird for me because they were asking me simple questions like, is your mom forcing you to be a girl? And I'm like, no, I want to be.
Yeah.
And it was like...
No, yeah. CPS can totally come to your kid's school, at least in our state, and without your presence and take you out of class and ask you questions. And so, and I don't even know why they did that. And I actually got a call from CPS after everything was over apologizing to me because the case shouldn't have even been picked up. They were just curious, I think. They just wanted to see the little boy who was wearing dresses.
Absolutely. And I think with, like you said at the time, it was kind of a hot topic. Maybe they were just like, what if we could be something that's like diving into that topic? What if something like this becomes something on the news? People want to get involved with things they are curious about and don't know.
Sure, for sure.
And even if that means, dipping into somebody's personal life.
For sure. I think that they definitely felt like it was like a salacious thing, like we need to go see about this.
Being somebody who's like being the savior when girl.
And thankfully you were ready to answer those questions.
Well,
because I had taken you to the children's hospital like a week before.
Yeah.
And they had given you a list of like all these questions, like to try to like prove that you were a girl. And one of the questions, and it was so archaic. It was just like the stupidest questions to get your gender dysphoria diagnosis. The questions were like, do you play sports? Do you like sports?
Yeah.
Like, do you
just so sexist.
It was so sexist. And I'm like, these are the questions that they're asking to figure out if you have gender dysphoria.
Like, this is what you think it means
like
to be a girl. This is what you think it means to be a man. Like,
yeah. Like, because we all know girls play sports.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Exactly.
So silly.
Do you feel people expect you to know all the issues of a trans person because you raised a trans kid?
A lot of people come to me and do ask me a lot of questions about trans people or raising trans kids because I have experience, but I'm learning new things every day.
Yeah.
I learn new things all the time.
So wouldn't say...
I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely not the expert, but I have a little experience.
What are some questions you got when other adults were asking you?
Oh, easy. So there's 3 main questions that I usually get. 1, when did we know that you were trans, or when did you know you were trans?
That's a big one.
Right. Or some people will say, when did she decide to be trans? And I always say, she never decided to be trans. Like, that's not something like you decide.
I am. Like,
you just are.
I am the woman I am. It took me a little time to put
we just figured it out together.
Yeah.
Right. But
exactly.
So, and then 2, are you dating? They want to know, like, who you date, what gender of person you date, what kind of person likes you, that kind of thing. And then the third thing is she going to get the surgery? Or oddly, like surprisingly enough, people, in elementary school, there was a mom that came up to me and said, oh, I heard, Viandre's transgender and you're, trying to educate the school system about that. And I said, yeah, you should come. We're doing like an educational after school meetings to help the parents and the staff learn about these trans kids who are coming forward now. Yeah. And I said, you should come. She goes, no, I think I know everything I need to know. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then she said, but I do have a question for you. So what private parts does your kid have?
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, I think you need to come to the class.
Yeah.
Like, clearly then you don't understand what it means to have trans. And also, like, do I ask you about your kid's private parts? No. Like, have some common sense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think people lack the common decency when it comes to the concept of a trans kid because, with stigmas and stereotypes being so negative and trans people typically coming out later in life, it isn't very common for trans kids to even exist.
Yeah, I think you were actually the first kid at your school who came out.
Yeah.
And I actually remember before you came out, and it was a couple years before you came out, and there was this book that was out, and it was really popular, and it was called My Princess Boy. Yes. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I remember bringing it to class and feeling shameful too.
Yeah, and we bought it, and I was thinking, it would be a good idea to ask the principal if, like, the library would be able to carry it so that the kids could check it out and read it and go home and, bring it back or whatever. And so I asked the principal, and she was so nervous. And I think she was really nervous about, like, what parents were going to think or say. Yeah. And there wasn't much information out at the time about trans kids. I mean, because there was a time where it just boomed. And then it was like, I think it was like around the time Caitlyn came out. And then it was just like everybody had this like huge interest in like, oh, what is this? What does this mean? And oh my gosh, kids are trans, you know? And so it was even before that. And she was like, well, I don't think that we should carry it because, the parents might think it's too sexual. And that it was just a huge letdown.
Right.
And it's funny, it's not funny at all. But adults,
I think it's not funny. I think it's ironic,
Well, what a lot of adults, especially adults like around my age or maybe older, some of them are a little behind on what sexuality is and what gender identity is.
Absolutely.
And just because you identify as a certain gender doesn't mean necessarily you're attracted to the opposite or whatever, And they also closely tie like gender with sexuality, I mean, like, and so she did. And so she thought that I was introducing a book like about sex, and it had nothing to do with that. It was like a book about like, oh, my princess boy likes to wear dresses,
right?
And don't bully him.
Yeah,
and that was it. It was like a really nice book about not bullying and accepting your child for who they are. Yeah, and their gender expression.
I think at that point it's like maybe you should read the book, girl.
Yeah, I don't even know if she read it.
Right?
Like she probably just looked at it and was like, no.
Do they even read the books? Let's be honest.
I don't. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. Is the book banning? I'm sure that book's not allowed in a lot of places right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After 19 years of raising a trans kid, you would think you know it all, but are you still learning as I'm growing up? Even outside of your household?
Of course. I learn new things all the time. I learn, especially with the way that people identify. I have a friend who came to me the other day, and he's a trans male person. And he said, for a long time, I had a really hard time identifying as male.
Right.
Or a man, because men have been so awful to me. And I didn't want to be that. So I just identify as trans masculine. And now he does call himself a man. But he said at first he didn't, because he's like, men have just been like, it's been really hard for me as a trans person, especially like with men, cis men. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know that you could identify as trans masculine and not call yourself a man.
Right.
So I learn new stuff all the time.
And even I'm still learning, like as a trans person, like I don't know everything about the trans community. And I think there's so many different ways people express themselves that are valid. Because it doesn't pertain to my life, I believe that not always do I see that for like different parts of the community. Does that mean I don't accept it? No, I'm just learning, you know? And I feel like everybody's learning. And I feel like we all have a common consensus of let's, accept each other and make sure when we speak, we're validating each other's feelings. But honestly, it's just putting the education that there is lack of in the education system. And we kind of have to learn it within society.
Yeah. And if somebody checks you, just correct it real quick, move on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Correct it. It doesn't cost you anything.
We're making mistakes. I'm making mistakes. And you think that somebody who is literally such a hard activist for the community
wouldn't make a mistake.
Right. Yeah. At some point I have to learn, and learning is, doing something wrong and learning from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, kind of speaking of that, was there ever a time where you, in a way, didn't have answers for people asking you questions? Or when I would ask you questions about my gender identity, what did you do when you didn't know an answer,
Right. Yeah. Like I said, you were like the first kid who came out at school as trans. And not only that, Viandre, but we lived in a community that was predominantly white. Yeah. So you're trans feminine. And that being a trans feminine little girl of color, huge. Yeah. I mean, it was huge in our community. But since you were kind of a trailblazer, I would get calls constantly every day asking me, like, what do we do when Viandre wants to use the girls' bathroom? Yeah. What do we do when Viandre wants to play on the girls' sports team? What do we do when Viandre doesn't want to get in the girl or in the boys' line? She wants to get in the girls' line for whatever you're lining up for. Because in schools, it's funny like that teachers will often, and I hope this is changing, they'll say, okay, girls over here, boys over here.
Yeah.
For whatever you're lining up for, when it could be done differently.
Yeah.
So it could be like anybody whose name is like, M and above, go over here. Anybody whose is, the rest of the alphabet, go over here. There's different ways to divide it.
Not everything has
but
to
we go
pertain
back to girl
gender.
and boy so much.
Yeah.
But I would get a lot of phone calls asking me like what to do with you. And it's when I was so new to it, even I didn't know the answers. I had no idea. Like, what do we do when Beyondre wants to use the girls? You were not using the bathroom all day long.
Yeah.
You would hold going to the bathroom until you got home from school, which is, really detrimental to your health. You could have hurt, you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And so not knowing the laws, not knowing like there's no rules that came before this, like what to do, I just kind of guessed. And I was like, well, and I got it wrong. And I said, well, maybe we should let Beyondre use the nurse's bathroom. And then they're like, okay. So they're like, okay, let's have Beyondre use the nurse's bathroom. And then you were still not going to the bathroom all day.
Yeah.
When I thought I was making the best choice for you, it actually wasn't the best choice for you. And so I said, well, Beyondre, how come you're not using the bathroom? Like, we've set aside the nurse's bathroom for you. And you said, because then the nurse knows every time I go. And that's embarrassing. And then I had to learn, like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, what was I thinking? That's segregating you. And, making a spectacle of you. And so what I did was that's where I started to, say, okay, I need to educate myself. Where do I find resources? Where do I find education on this? Yeah. And I was reading a magazine, and in the magazine, it's like probably like People magazine or something. And in the magazine, it was an article on trans children, and it was just like so new and so like such a hot topic. And there were some resources listed at the end of the article. And there was a doctor in California that, like, her practice was treating trans kids. So I called her office, and she's in California. And I said, I live in Washington. Where can I get resources? And they said, call the Children's Hospital where you live.
Okay.
I think they have something. So I called the Children's Hospital, and they said, yeah, actually, we have an organization that meets here every Sunday. And they help parents and children navigate this. Yeah. And I was like, perfect. So we started going to these support groups every Sunday where the parents were in another room and the kids were in another room, and you guys just played. Right. There was no like, you guys played with toys or colored or whatever. But the parents got together and were able to sit down with a experienced professional and sort out what was going on with our kids. Yeah. And so then I started to learn, and then I knew exactly what to do.
Because you had professionals sort of teaching you.
Well, yeah, and I'm not, I don't sit down and read the law books. Like, I don't know what the bathroom rules are. Yeah. I didn't know. Right. Because it was never something I had to question. But now I have to look at everything differently. Yeah. So, yeah. And so then I learned, you have every right to use whatever bathroom you feel comfortable in. And for you, that was the girls' bathroom. You didn't feel safe in the boys' bathroom.
No, I didn't at all. Yeah. I would literally get like guys peeking inside the little stalls.
Oh my gosh,
They'd be banging on the doors. Yeah, right when I was just using the restroom like a normal person. Yeah. Oh so that was the reason mainly why I didn't go to the bathroom.
Wow.
Because it was harassment.
So you got harassed more in the men's bathroom than you ever did in a girl's bathroom. Yeah. Have you ever gotten harassed in a girl's bathroom?
The only time I did was this one little snooty girl who she just didn't like that I was being so out and proud. And, which was a little weird.
Was that the girl who copied your outfits all the time?
There was a lot of girls who copied my outfits, okay? Like, if I'm going to be honest, I don't remember. And it's also really interesting hearing all of this because, like, as my age gets older, my youth brain kind of decays.
Oh, yeah, you forget.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to, you help me revisit it.
Yeah, so, okay, I hope that wasn't triggering for you.
No, I mean, it's honestly just, like, a part of my life, like, I've accepted it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's who I am, and that's what the punches I've had to roll with, and that's what gave me the thicker skin I have today, and that's the reason I'm able to handle people
I wish you
coming
didn't
my
have
way.
to go through that.
In a
But,
way, though,
yeah.
I'm kind of glad I have because it gives me character. I
Yeah.
feel like, you
now
know,
you can like maybe help someone else who need or like
well, yeah, it
talk
just like
through.
makes me
Yeah.
stronger in situations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can handle the complexity of understanding somebody else's struggles and why they may have an issue with me because of what they're going through. Because trans people bring out a lot of insecurities within other people because it's kind of like holding a mirror up to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because we're so out and proud. It's like, oh my gosh, at that point, it's like, why am I not like this? And I'm cis and, you know,
Right. Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
everything that is accepted in society. And I can't even be confident in myself while I'm here being the opposite of what's accepted in society and being even more proud of who I am,
Yeah.
regardless of gender. I would say going to those trans support groups, like I remember I had this neighbor that we were friends with. You remember?
Our next door neighbor?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would hang out with the little girl all the time. And this is before me like attending the classes. Did you go to the classes before I even was like aware of me being trans, or was it like kind of you just guessed? Like what prompted you to do that?
Okay, so I started attending the support groups before I even called you a girl. Like I was still calling you a boy.
Okay.
And I went in there just like kind of in crisis. Like I didn't know like where to turn or what to do or how to raise you or like what was going on. And so
Another question I have, sorry to interrupt you, but like, was there anybody who was queer, specifically trans in your life before that you knew? Because like,
I have a cousin who's trans, but he lives really far away. I didn't grow up with him.
yeah.
But I think that's the only person that I knew who was trans, but I never like looked into it too much. It was never like, you know, a big deal, I guess, to me.
Yeah.
So
So nobody close in your life.
no.
I remember you had Zach.
Well, Zach's not trans.
I know, not trans, but
Yeah.
somebody who is queer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I mean, I've known plenty of people who are gay, you know, but and you know, when I was raising you, when you started to show like kind of signs that you were different. In my like dinosaur adult brain, I'm like, oh, Viandra is just a gay kid, you know, because we assign like your
Gender
sexuality
roles and
so much
yeah.
with like the way you act, I guess, or like, you know, we just kind of assume.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, I just thought you're gay. I mean, I thought that for a really long time.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm, you know, like my thinking was so, like I said, I was like you know, like just had this old school mentality that, oh, you act like this, then you're just kind of like this femmy gay boy.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case. And then when I realized that you weren't, or that was something was different, was when you would come home from either school or from daycare or wherever, and you would immediately come in the house, take off all your boy clothes, and you would wrap a towel around your hair. You know how when you flip it upside down,
I remember.
you would wear a towel around the house all the rest of the evening.
Yeah.
Because you said it was your ponytail. And then you would want me to wrap blankets like this, like around you and tie it in the back.
As
Do you
a
remember
dress.
that? As a dress.
Yes.
And that's how and you didn't want to leave the house again. And one of my friends realized that you really liked wearing dresses. And so she bought you this tutu.
Yeah.
Like it was like one of those tutus that you pull up, like a leotard tutu.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you lived in that thing. Like that thing was tattered, rat-a-tat-tat. Like
Girl,
by the time
every
you were
single
done with
day,
that.
I swear. And I started wearing them to school as well, eventually when I came out. But before then, like I would put it on every single day after school.
Yes, and like I would be like, and I was so, and I guess like I was so scared that people were going to be cruel to you if you wore it out in public because I'm such a mama bear that I would have you take it off before we left the house. And you'd be like, no, I want to wear it. And I would be like, no, you can't. We cannot wear this to the grocery store, you know? And I really regret that now that I know better, right? But back then I just wanted to keep you safe. And I didn't want anyone to like bully you or say something to you that was going to dim your light or that was going to like create trauma in your childhood. And so, but yeah. And then I was like, okay.
What was the unthinking process for you? Like, what made you decide that my happiness was going to be more valuable than the protection for myself in a sense?
Definitely I had to educate myself.
Yeah.
We have to educate ourselves, period. We have to educate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves for our kids. If you want your child to grow up to be like, the happiest functional person they can, it's like you have to support them. Yeah. Hands down.
Do you think that was influenced by you maybe being a single mom?
So,
Because you, in a sense, you wouldn't have somebody like another man basically telling you like what to do.
True. So here's something that a lot of people don't know about you, but your father, passed away. Yes. When you were 1 year old. Yes. And he got into an accident. And so I was a single mom. I had just had my second kid. So there was you and Val. And he passed away the day before Val was born. And so I came home with 2 babies. And you came out very young. As soon as you could kind of identify things that you liked or wanted to play with, I knew you were different. Yeah. And so as a single parent, I didn't have another person or like possibly another person who was against raising you to be, living in your truth. We didn't have that influence. Right. And I feel for the people who have parents who are opposing. Yeah. That might have one parent who's super supportive and then they have another parent who's just like adamant against it. And they're stuck, and the kids are stuck because they can't move forward with the care that they need. Yeah. Because of this one parent that's like holding them back. And so, I really feel for the families and the kids who have to deal with that. But yeah, I did raise you by myself. And so I don't know, like why I ended up where I ended up, where I was, where there was not a question. I don't know. Like every parent wants their kid to be happy. Every parent wants their kid to come home smiling, happy, doing well in school. And by any means necessary, that's what I wanted for you too. Yeah. So when something clicked in my brain was when I saw other people in the family that were not affirming. And like we went to Christmas and you had on one of those tutus. Right. And somebody in our family, or I was getting presents out of the car and you went into the house and then 1 second later you ran out and you were crying. And I'm like, Leandra, what's wrong? And you said, oh, so-and-so wants me to take off my tutu. They said I can't wear it to Christmas. And I was just like, oh, hell no. So I went in there and I said, Vianre's wearing this tutu. And if she's not wearing this, if you're not going to allow her to wear this tutu at Christmas, we're not doing Christmas with you ever. Right. And then they were like, oh, no. Viandre can wear the tutu. Right. I was like, okay.
Because they didn't realize how serious it was.
And that's when I was like, no, like forget everybody who has something to say to my baby. I'm going hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So it's kind of you, in a way, letting me express myself and then having somebody oppose you. And when your parenting was questioned, it was defense mechanism, sort of
I just didn't want to see you hurt. And I didn't want to see you cry. And I do remember there was also a time where you would say, like, how come I was made with this body and you got that body? It's not fair. Like, why do I have to have this body? And you would like cry yourself to sleep. And I'm like, gosh, like if anybody who meets you or knows you, they get it. It's like instant. Like people who are so against trans people or trying to create anti-trans legislation or whatever, like unfortunately, I don't know if they're ever going to learn until like somebody that they're close to or somebody they love comes to them and comes out.
With those feelings.
Yeah. And even then, they still might not get it, because there are families who completely shun their kids, which is just awful. But we both know, you can create a family if you have to. Yeah.
As a cis woman, have you ever been put in your place by somebody in the queer community when you were being a little outwardly wrong.
Me overstep?
Yeah.
Never.
Never. How dare you even think that of me?
No.
Trans kid.
For sure. Absolutely. And especially when you were young, like, you know, because I was your advocate. So like, I remember we would go to conferences and we went to a class and it was for trans girls. And I had so many questions. I kept asking, like raising my hand. And the woman who was leading the class was like, listen, lady, like this is a trans queer space.
Yeah.
And you are none of those things. So you're going to need to stop asking so many questions.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So dumb. I was like, I didn't say a peep
Right.
the rest of the time.
Not for the parents.
Yeah.
It's for us.
Yeah, I've had to learn.
Yeah.
I've had to learn.
For
Yeah,
sure. That's
for sure.
good.
That's okay.
Do you think trans women are a threat to women's sports?
Oh, yeah. Because trans women are just dominating.
Oh my gosh. The 2% of the population is taking over, you guys.
I just read a statistic that like trans athletes, at least like professional, like 0.002% are trans.
Even there, like.
And even further, I don't think that there's any trans athlete, at least there's no trans woman athlete that I know of that has broken a record that a cis woman has made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like all this like trans fear over trans women, especially the trans women athletes, is all hypothetical.
Yeah.
It's all a bunch of hypotheticals. It's all a bunch of like what ifs and you know, I think that there's so many more like important things that we could focus on in women's sports. Like how about the pay difference between women and men's sports? How about the abuse of coaches in women's sports? How about the eating disorders that is prevalent in women's sports? Like these people who are trying to take this opportunity from trans people to play sports are just fear mongering, and they're not looking at they're not looking at the real issues that are existing. Furthermore, you know, like my sister or my stepsister, she has two beautiful children. Before she even had kids, she had gone to the doctor and they had done some blood work, and she's like, "Do you know that I have a bit more bone density or a thicker bone density?" muscle mass, and I have far more testosterone than the average woman.
Right.
And I was like, well, it wasn't surprising because she was like very strong. Yeah. But I was like, that's crazy, you know, that they know that about you. And that just goes to show that our bodies and our genetic makeup and our, you know, like what we're made of is so different. Like it varies from person to person. Yeah. So really, I mean, if you want like a fair sports team or what, like you're gonna have to break down like people's like, you know, like how much testosterone, how much estrogen, and what is your muscle mass and what's your bone density. And actually, you know what, we award the cis people who have an advantage usually over other cis people. Absolutely. We award the people who have the longer arms for swimming. We award the people who, you know, have the height for basketball.
Right. Are taller in the NBA.
Girl, if we put you in an NBA game, you would get crushed.
Oh, like
you would get crushed.
When I was in middle school, I ended up going to try to play basketball because I was just interested in like maybe I could try a sport. I was interested in it. I haven't done it before. Girl, I got floored. Like
you made one basket, right?
One basket
at the very last game.
All games.
You were so proud of that basket.
I was
proud of you for that basket.
But the thing is, like, girl, I had no advantage.
Just because you're trans does not mean you're going to come in and just dominate, right?
Absolutely. No. Granted, I was on.
And you're actually smaller. Like WNBA women are like 6 feet and up.
Yeah.
You're not even like it's
5'10",
like the argument is just so silly.
Yeah.
But here's what I also really feel very strongly is that say what you want about adults, whatever, push that aside. Stop taking the opportunity away from kids to play sports.
Right.
Because you know, who are you, big bully? You know, like let these kids play sports.
Exactly.
There's you know, like watch a little trans girl sit on the side the whole time.
Yeah.
That's sad. Let these kids play sports before their secondary sex characteristics have have, come in. I think that is just so wrong to take that opportunity away from kids. Yeah. All kids should have the opportunity to play sports.
And if you're really that interested in the statistics of strength level, you have the resources to do the blood work to do that. A lot of trans people who are in sports are on hormone therapy because
right.
They
so
want
I think
to
like in the Olympics,
rules,
I could be wrong. This as far as I know. I think it's the Olympics. If you want to play or compete in women's track or like whatever, then they have you go on, and it might be in colleges too, they have you do hormone therapy for a couple years so that your hormones align with a cis woman's, so that your balance is the same.
Yeah.
Right? So you're more of a, like equal, you're on an equal playing field essentially.
Exactly. So at that point, it's like,
yeah,
girl, there really is no advantage because my bone density is just the exact same as a cis woman. And for people who get on hormones later in life, the bone density actually ends up becoming damaged to the point where it's
Do you know that I think Leah Thompson, the swimmer, after she transitioned, she did worse in her sports. Yeah, in her swimming.
Because our bone density is being fractured from the hormones.
Because it softens or like whatever.
It softens, takes a toll, X, Y, and Z. So, basically we actually have less of an advantage.
You have tried to to make it more like even or whatever. But I say let people play.
As a trans person, I looked to hormone therapy to help me with the trajectory of how my body was working. Was that ever kind of scary for you with me starting hormones and getting on a blocker? I know it was new to you, so was it scary?
Well, it was a little scary, but you had such a great doctor.
Right.
And so she's what's called an endocrinologist. And she was so good at explaining what blockers do, what hormones do, what's reversible, what's not reversible. So by the time that you were ready, it wasn't a scary thing. It was like, okay, yes, we can go forward and everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And I remember the doctor always saying don't worry, you're not going to miss the train. She's fine. Stop worrying that you're going to she's not going to have the opportunity to get the medication that she needs.
Yeah.
Because we were just so on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, I was begging for it at points.
You were.
I was seeing everybody else go through puberty, and basically I was just like, when is it going to happen for me?
Yeah.
And
I remember the first, or when you finally got on estrogen for the first time, and the doctor was like, well, she just doesn't throw it out there. You have to really...
You have to slowly take it. And I remember going to school the first day after going to that appointment, and I just didn't want to tell him. I just didn't want to tell any of my friends because I just felt like, honestly, this was meant for my body. I felt like this was something that was just needed to be natural to me. And I felt like, why announce it to the world, I should just be able to integrate it in conversation later on if it comes up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you were really happy to get on it, though. I remember that.
I really was.
Yeah. And she started you on the tiniest dose.
I know. I think it was 0.5 milligram of estrogen.
So it's these kids aren't going to the doctor and getting on some full, woman's dosage.
Right.
It's very slowly and very carefully administered.
There are a lot of politicians out there currently that want to ban transgender affirming healthcare, especially for youth. What do you think the long-term effects are going to look like for that, especially for trans kids?
I think that is very scary, and I think that the politicians, the people in power who want to take away trans affirming care, don't have any idea what they're doing. They're just trying to get power.
Exactly.
They just want to be in power. So what they're doing is the oldest trick in the book. They are taking a group of people to target and bully a marginalized group of people to make themselves feel superior and then vote for their leader to be in power.
Right.
So they're stepping on trans people and women and people of color so that it can feed the power, the people in power. These people in power, a lot of them have gone to very prestigious colleges, Princeton and Yale and all that stuff. They're not small-minded people, are they? Well, I mean, they have to be. They're smarter than they let on.
Yeah,
they know that there's trans people. They know there's gay people. They know that these people have existed for forever and ever. They just want to use that. They want to weaponize it so that they can gain power. And it's just really sad that, they want to do that. Gender affirming care, I mean, who's it hurting? I mean, people who are cis take part in gender affirming care.
Yeah.
They take, I know women who take estrogen, or cis women who take estrogen, cis men who take testosterone.
And that's what it's originally made for, technically.
Because it helps them feel more, like comfortable and more like, like in their gender. Absolutely. It helps them feel like who they are. Do they take hormones? They take the pills that help them. They, they do the things to their body that they want to do that makes them, express their gender identity better.
The effects are irreversible. Like, if I really wanted to, I mean, obviously at this point in my life, after 10 years of being on hormones.
Well, that's hormones. But like, for example, the blockers. And this is really important. A lot of people don't know this, but puberty blockers are a little, it's a little... like a little matchstick, it's kind of like the size of
basically a little implant in your arm.
It gives
that will
off
pause
medication to pause puberty. Why was this made? It wasn't made for trans kids. It was made for kids who had precocious puberty, such as the kids who had maybe like a period at the age of 5.
Right.
So they put the blocker in. It just, kind of gives you more time, suppresses, the secondary characteristics from coming forward.
Right.
So you have a little bit more time to decide what you want to do, right, for trans kids. So you got on a blocker when you were young. You were like the first round of kids. You're like the pioneer kids. But it's been tested before on other kids, like who had the precocious puberty.
Yeah.
So, like now are they going to take that option away for the kids who have precocious puberty? Those kids are fine. Yeah. You are fine. And then when the blocker wears off over time, like most medications, and by that time you can kind of decide, well, do I want to introduce hormones or not? So it buys you time. Right. You still grow taller. Your brain still develops the same as other kids. People have this like misguided and uneducated like opinion that blockers somehow have these irreversible effects, and that's not true.
They don't. And
it's
actually,
not true.
When my blocker wore off, I had to get on more hormones to make sure that I was not having male puberty. Right. And I actually did end up having some of that male puberty, which led to some effects that were just very dysphoric for my body. So I think that in itself is a testament that, these effects are temporary for a reason and are here to help you for a period of time.
And the hormones are supported by, most medical organizations.
Professionals.
Yeah. That, can see that this is going to have an effect on your mental health if you don't have them. And, the suicide rate of like trans people who aren't, possibly don't have access to these is high, because they wake up every day and don't feel like, like themselves. And it's really sad. So I think it's foolish to take away gender affirming healthcare. I think it's really silly. I mean, silly is like a nice word. It's shitty.
Yeah.
And I think these people in power have no idea what they're doing to people's mental health. And it's just sad. All for some votes.
Right. I asked on my story, what is a question you have for my mom who has helped me transition at a young age? So we're going to do some rapid fire questions for you to answer.
Okay.
This is what my supporters want to know.
Rapid fire. Okay,
yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. How long did it take for you to understand how I felt about my gender identity?
I had to educate myself.
Right.
So it took a few years. And then when it was time to transition, it was no surprise.
Period.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. How did our relatives react to me coming out as trans in the family?
Some of the relatives were immediately supportive. And actually, your aunt was the one who suggested that you might be trans. So if it wasn't for her, who knows where we'd be?
What? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Auntie Gina or Katie?
Gina.
Oh, my God. Hey, Gina. Thank you. You're the reason I am who I am, I guess.
She put me on.
Right.
Yeah.
This one's actually from my manager, which is a really good question.
Oh gosh.
She said, what was your mom's biggest fear sending you to school? Also, how did your mom deal with seeing you get bullied in school and online?
My biggest fear of you going to school was obviously that people would bully you, tease you, leave you out, that you would not want to go to school.
Yeah.
And what was the second question?
What was your reaction or your feelings in the
Oh, my
moment when I
reaction?
was getting bullied online and in school?
Oh, nip it. I would, like the first school that you ever went to, you got teased immediately. I moved you school districts because no, we're not going to sit around and waste time, play with my baby's heart.
Right.
So we moved school districts so you're in a safer location.
We're also not here to waste time and put myself in a unsafe environment where I
never.
can't be accepted to express myself.
Never.
I deserve all of that. I deserve to be who I want to be and not have people oppose just who I am as a person.
Yeah. And if there was some online bullying, straight to the district.
Oh, that part. No. All the online
Like
bullying.
I'm straight Karening. I'm like, I gotta speak to somebody about this. Like that was me.
No,
Yeah.
I was a Karen for myself as well because I would report so many comments to the office of people that were in my school. The only problem was, I swear, they were just get a slap on the wrist. We'll talk about that more in the next episode. But,
Yeah, for sure.
oh my gosh.
But no, I'm going hard.
Period.
Straight to the top.
Love it.
We need an apology.
Yeah.
We need another one. Yep.
And you need to be expelled.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And exposed.
And then I have a game for you that I do with all my guests. It's called The Good, Bad, and the Fabulous. We're going to hear one topic, and basically you're going to tell me a good, bad, and fabulous thing that comes to mind when you hear it.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is coming out. A good, bad, and fabulous thing you feel about it.
Oh my gosh. Well, good. I feel like good and fabulous is like together. Like, yeah. I feel like obviously it's good because it's freeing. It's like liberating. It's amazing. Fabulous because you get to, take it further and really, start playing with your and expressing your gender expression.
Outwardly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's brilliant. I love that. And bad? I don't think there's anything bad about coming out unless maybe you're not in a safe environment.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Good for me is that, you just get to finally live in your skin and finally feel yourself without feeling burden of the shell that you're in. Bad would be the dysphoria you feel before. I guess like it just feels so trapped and I don't know, when I wasn't out I felt so trapped and it was the only thing I thought about and I couldn't even think about living before putting, a sense of purpose to my identity. So I'd say bad in that sense. But fabulous is when I finally, am out and have lived my truth for at least like a little time where I can have some wisdom. I feel fabulous because I, have experience and I can feel more comfortable. And it's not just the rip the Band-Aid off moment. It's more so of like, oh, I can finally learn about myself now. The next one is a Kim Petras.
Ooh. Fabulous and fierce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kim Petras.
Love her.
She sings My Coconut.
I love that. That got stuck in my head all day yesterday.
Right. No, we were playing that as we were getting ready together. A good is, oh my gosh, she followed me on Instagram.
She did?
Yeah. I was being such a fangirl and I was like, oh my gosh, I just like, how should I get her attention? She dropped a song and I sent the lyrics to her in her DMs and she was like, I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh. I wasn't expecting you to respond, but she's been just outwardly showing much love to all of the trans people in the community, which honestly is kind of unheard of for those who want power in the industry. So I was just really thankful that she even showed me light. And bad, there's nothing bad about her.
No,
I think
nothing bad.
what could be bad is the things that people say about her online and the way that people, I don't know, when she won her Grammy, the way people were treating her and discrediting her. I definitely think that's bad. But a fabulous is how she handled it and how she came out even stronger.
Yeah. She's definitely like breaking through the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Trailblazer.
Fabulous.
Trailblazer for this
Fabulous.
generation.
Everything fabulous.
Yeah.
And she was just on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yes, I just bought it yesterday.
And you just bought it. You're like, we have to get this.
It's history happening in real time,
all
y'all.
good. Breaking through the ceiling, breaking those barriers. You know, people need to see.
Yeah.
Trans people are
Here.
We
love you, Kimmy.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last one is trans actors, and specifically Euphoria. But I know there's a lot of trans actors that you actually introduced me to in my childhood with like Pose and stuff. So Good, Bad, and Fabulous about that.
Oh my gosh, so good and so fabulous because trans people are, I mean, and the storylines also, like in shows and movies, so important to see.
Yeah.
So important to see. To see, you know, trans romance.
Right.
And people, you know, loving on trans people. So it's just good. It's fabulous. Like, I love it. Give the jobs, you know, to trans people to play trans roles.
Right. Because then they can understand it on a more
well,
less
not only
than
that,
surface
but like,
level.
I mean, how long have trans people been, you know, like denied roles because they're trans, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so important to like, you know, trans people are part of our, you know, part of society, they're part of who we are.
Yeah.
So it's important to get the stories out there to, you know, show and educate people because that's how a lot of people get their exposure is through TV.
Yeah.
So it's so important. Super important. Nothing bad.
A good about trans actors is that it gives us, you know, a sense of somebody to claim an identity with. I think in like especially kids shows, it should be important to have trans people in them because we
to look up to.
Yeah, to look up to and to kind of develop like a sense of idolship. Even that's not a word. For us to look up to somebody and for us to feel represented. A bad is when trans roles are given to those people who are not trans. You do not know our experience, you know?
No.
And a lot of the times with roles, people put in some of their personal experience or, you know, research that they've done, but that cannot always be accurately depicted if it's not coming from a trans person. And fabulous is that we just get to be represented in the media and celebrated. And I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes.
I want more.
I want more. I need.
What song is that?
You remember? A zip in the pool, a trip to the spa, endless days in my shades. The whole world is boarding to moi. Excuse me. Thank you. Sharpay Evans from High School Musical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I was like, that sounds familiar, but that's like more that was more like your age range.
Yeah. I used to sing it as a kid all the time.
Yeah.
All right, but that'll wrap us up for today.
Oh wait, before we go, I do have a little gift for you.
Ooh.
I've been sitting on a secret, as you say.
Oh.
So we did mention at the beginning that your dad passed away when you were young, and today is actually his birthday.
Yes.
And he would have been 45, and this was something that he wore when you were a baby.
Oh my gosh.
And I found it the other day, and I wanted to give it to you.
No way.
It's a hologram picture of you when you were a baby.
This is so special.
And he was so proud of you. And he loved you so much.
And he made it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he wore it all the time.
I remember not being able to have this as a kid because you were like, I don't want you to lose it.
Yeah.
It's definitely
so
something.
take care of it.
Yes.
But it's definitely just like, you know, a reminder that, you know, you're loved and like his energy and all that is like, I feel it through you. And I think that you're just like meant for so much and you are a revolutionary, and I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you, Mom.
Yeah,
Thank you for letting me express myself. I mean, I know I shouldn't thank people for that, you know, but it's a standard that needs to be put out there for sure.
Yeah, so.
Oh, I love you. And honestly, I think he would love us too to this day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All this energy that he gives, honestly, just exudes within how I grow up and how I am. And
yeah.
I love you.
I love you.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Mom. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
I mean, it took a lot for you to like take time out of your schedule. You're a busy woman, so just like again, I appreciate it so much. And that will wrap us up for today's episode. Is there any last words or anything that you want to say?
If you're a parent out there who is raising a trans kid, or you think your kid might be trans or under the trans umbrella, I would say that the organization that helped me navigate with you the most was it's called transfamilies.org.
Yes.
And they have a lot of online resources. They are vetted very carefully, so their Zooms and their calls and stuff like that, they make sure that you're legit.
Okay, period.
Yeah, and that you have the best intentions. But transfamilies.org, and they're just a wealth of information and a support system when you feel like you might not have the answers that you're looking for. If you are trying to help your child navigate through hormone therapy, look into endocrinologists that can help. And if you're not in a safe state, know that Washington is a state that has a protection for trans people. Like we passed what's called the SHIELD law. And so, and there are other places too. I know Kansas City is one of those places that are, a safe haven for trans people. But, keep fighting, get out there and vote for, the people who are going to support gender affirming care and support our kids, and just keep fighting the good fight and do your best. Love your kids. Love your kids.
And any selfish social plugs?
Girl, no.
No?
You can find me through you. If you ever tag me.
Okay.
Yes. But I don't want to be out there like that. Like, I don't know you people.
She's Teva's mom, 34 on TikTok.
No.
If I'm correct. So.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
You are going to be Teva's mom?
We'll put the real thing on the screen. Don't worry. I'll give you the legit username.
Okay.
But mine is Viandre Mitchell on Instagram, Viandre on TikTok, and Viandre M on Snapchat. But that's it for today's show. Thank you everyone for watching. I can't believe we even had this happen. I hope you loved it as much as I did. And make sure to come back next week for episode 4. And don't forget to rate, follow, and review Don't Ask Me That on all streaming platforms. And you can watch the visual on the Past Your Bedtime YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe. All right, but that'll call it for a day. I love you, dollies. I'll see you later.